Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you into a deeper exploration of the human mind, a journey toward the hidden spaces within you that quietly shape your thoughts, your reactions, and your inner strength. We often look for power in confidence, discipline, or external achievements, yet the greatest source of strength comes from understanding the parts of ourselves we rarely acknowledge. The shadows within us, our fears, our insecurities, our unresolved emotions, hold the key to a form of resilience far greater than anything found on the surface. As we explore this idea together, I encourage you to listen not just with your mind, but with honesty toward your own inner world. Inner meaning shapes your reality because the mind is not a passive observer of life. It is the interpreter, the storyteller, and the silent architect behind everything you experience. Two people can walk through the same situation and emerge with completely different lessons, different emotions, and different outcomes, not because the world treated them differently, but because their inner world processed the moment through different lenses. This is why mental strength does not begin with controlling the outside world. It begins with understanding how you translate the outside world within yourself. Your inner meaning is the blueprint that determines whether you rise from challenges or collapse beneath them. Every moment you live passes through the filter of your beliefs, memories, expectations, and emotional patterns. If those filters are filled with doubt or fear, even neutral events will feel threatening. If they are filled with clarity and self-trust, even difficult events become manageable. Meaning is not something that falls on you, it is something you create. When you shift the meaning, you shift the emotional weight of an experience. When you shift the emotional weight, your behavior changes, and when your behavior changes, your results transform. What happens outside matters far less than the narrative you build inside. The mind constantly interprets subtle signs, a tone, a pause, a setback, an unexpected change. Many people don't realize that their reaction is not to the event itself, but to the meaning they assigned it. A missed opportunity becomes a sign of "I'm not good enough." A delay becomes "nothing ever works for me." One person rejects you, and suddenly your mind declares, "I am not worthy." These meanings are not facts, they're emotional translations rooted in old wounds. When you don't question them, they quietly shape your identity. They convince you to shrink, to hesitate, to avoid risks, and to live smaller than your actual potential. But the moment you begin examining the meaning, you take power back. Instead of reacting automatically, you start asking yourself, what story am I telling right now? Why did I interpret this moment this way? Does this meaning align with the person I want to be? This self-inquiry interrupts the old patterns. It allows you to choose a response instead of being controlled by one. You become the author of your internal story rather than a character trapped inside it. Inner meaning also shapes your emotional strength. When you assign a negative meaning to discomfort, you run from it. When you assign a growth-oriented meaning, you approach it with curiosity instead of fear. The same emotion can either destroy you or strengthen you based on how you interpret its presence. Stress becomes a signal to organize your life instead of proof that you're overwhelmed. Failure becomes a stepping stone instead of a verdict. Criticism becomes feedback instead of an attack. Your nervous system responds not to reality, but to the meaning your mind attaches. This is why some individuals become unstoppable. They don't live easier lives, they interpret life differently. They don't deny pain, but they search for the wisdom inside it. They don't ignore challenges, but they translate them as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more stable. Their resilience is not gifted, it is constructed through meaning. Your mind develops depth when you stop taking experiences at face value and begin exploring what they reveal about you. Every emotion, reaction, and resistance carries information about your inner world. When something triggers you, there is a meaning underneath begging to be examined. When something inspires you, there is a meaning that resonates with your true nature. Inner meaning is not only about interpretation, it is also about self-discovery. It shows you who you are beneath the surface. When you start shaping meaning consciously, you gain the ability to navigate life with a grounded presence. You stop being shaken by small things. You stop absorbing negativity from others. You stop interpreting uncertainty as danger. Instead, you begin to see challenges as invitations, emotions as messages, and experiences as mirrors reflecting your internal state. Inner meaning is the foundation of mental strength, because your outer reality forms around the inner narrative you live by. Change the meaning, and you change the way you show up in life. Change the way you show up, and the world responds differently to you. This is the quiet transformation that creates unshakable resilience, not through force, but through awareness. Understanding your shadows builds power, because the parts of yourself you avoid hold more influence over your life than the parts you proudly acknowledge. Every person carries hidden emotions, unprocessed memories, and instinctive reactions that were shaped in moments of vulnerability. These shadows are not signs of weakness. They are fragments of your inner world that were never given language or understanding. When left unexamined, they operate silently, influencing your decisions, your relationships, and your emotional responses. You may think you are reacting to the present moment, but often you are responding to the echo of something unhealed within you. True inner strength begins the moment you stop running from these hidden parts and choose to explore them with honesty. A shadow forms when an experience creates an emotional charge too heavy for the conscious mind to process. Instead of dealing with the pain, the mind buries it, believing that avoidance equals protection. But what is buried does not disappear. It waits. It speaks through your triggers, through the fears you cannot explain, through the anger that arrives too quickly, through the insecurities that surface at the worst times, and through the patterns you repeat even when you know they hurt you. When you understand your shadows, you learn to trace these reactions back to their origin, and suddenly behaviors that once confused you become clear. One of the most powerful aspects of shadow understanding is recognizing that what you resist becomes stronger. When you suppress fear, it grows sharper. When you avoid sadness, it becomes heavier. When you deny your insecurities, they hide in your decisions. Avoidance is not protection, it is captivity. The more you try to push a shadow away, the more control it gains over your emotional state. But when you turn toward the shadow with curiosity instead of fear, it begins to soften. By observing it without judgment, you dissolve the power it holds over you. Exploring your shadows requires courage because it forces you to confront the parts of yourself you have learned to hide. This confrontation is not about blame or shame, it is about awareness. For example, when you feel sudden anger at someone's comment, the surface reaction might be frustration, but the shadow beneath may reveal a deeper wound, perhaps a memory of not being heard, acknowledged, or respected. When you feel jealousy, it may uncover a part of you that has long ached for validation or connection. When you feel intimidated, it may reveal old experiences where your confidence was dismissed. Shadows guide you to the unresolved emotions that shape your identity without your permission. Understanding your shadows transforms emotional triggers into teachers. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this moment showing me about myself?" This shift turns every challenge into a mirror. Instead of seeing conflict as a threat, you see it as information. Instead of seeing discomfort as a problem, you see it as a path. Every shadow that comes to the surface is offering a chance to reclaim a part of yourself. Power grows from this process because awareness dissolves illusion. When you face your insecurities directly, they no longer control you. When you acknowledge your fears, they lose their grip. When you understand your emotional patterns, you stop sabotaging yourself unknowingly. You become more stable, more grounded, and more capable of responding to life consciously. This kind of strength cannot be shaken by circumstance because it is built from deep internal clarity. Your shadows are also the doorway to untapped potential. Traits you suppress: assertiveness, creativity, confidence, sensitivity, ambition often hide in the same place as your unresolved emotions. What you deny in yourself does not die, it waits. When you explore your shadows, you reclaim these lost strengths. You discover courage where you once believed there was fear. You discover independence where you once believed there was dependency. You discover purpose where you once believed there was confusion. The power you seek is often buried beneath the emotions you avoid. Understanding your shadows is not about becoming flawless. It is about becoming whole. Wholeness gives you the ability to stay steady in the face of challenges because you are no longer at war with yourself. Instead of reacting from old wounds, you respond from awareness. Instead of being driven by unconscious patterns, you make choices with clarity. This inner integration creates a strength that does not rely on force, image, or perfection. It comes from knowing yourself deeply, the light and the shadow, and holding both with acceptance. When you understand your shadows, you no longer fear your emotions. You no longer fear your past. You no longer fear your complexity. You stand with a kind of quiet power that others feel but cannot explain. It is the power of someone who has walked through their inner world and returned with wisdom, not avoidance. It is the power of someone who knows themselves fully.